Hey folks, Rob Hannes here of the Preparedness Podcast, the podcast that brings you the best in preparedness information. This is the final portion of May, getting ready to go to the Prepare to Endure Prepper Expo in Bakersfield, California in the next couple of weeks. It'll be on June 8th and June 9th. You can check out all the details at preparetoendure.com. I'm going to be giving a couple classes on EMP as well as having a booth there, so if you're in the area or you're going to be in the area, stop on by and say hi. I'd like to shake your hand, say hello. Last week, I was interviewed by Kerry Lutz of the Financial Survival Network, and you can find his site at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. He's got a lot of great financial information as far as the economy, the dollar, and some other survival and prep information on there if you would like to go check it out. But I thought I would go ahead and put that interview on here because there's some good prep information there that I wanted to make sure that we pass along. So here's that interview.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
This show is brought to you by Preparewise. We live in uncertain times. Therefore, you need to be prepared. And the best way to be prepared is having 60 or 90 days of food on hand. The place that I go is Preparewise.com. They're not only a sponsor, I buy all of my emergency preparedness food from them. Their service is the best. Their selection, incredible. Go to Preparewise.com. Use the code
PrepCast
for a special offer. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1590 WPSL. One of our recurrent themes on the Financial Survival Network is for you to have a plan, for you to be prepared, for you to be ready for any and all contingencies, although you know as well as I know you can't be ready for everything. But if you're in a crowded theater and you know where the exit is and nobody else does, guess who's getting there faster? Here to talk more about it, Rob Hannes. Rob is an expert in preparation and survival. Rob, welcome to the Financial Survival Network. This is our first interview. It's so great to have you on.
Hi, Kerry. Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So for your family, you and Amy, this is a way of life, isn't it?
Pretty much. When you get into being prepared, you realize that you have to work at it much like you work at anything, whether it be a relationship or a hobby or anything that you have an interest in maintaining. It does require continual work and upkeep. Now, that doesn't mean it's constant, but it does mean that you have to work at it on a regular basis. So whether you budget one day a month or an hour a weekend or something, you do need to make sure that you're putting forth towards your preparedness efforts because you have plans to make, you have analyses to conduct on what the current threat is. You have to do inventory to make sure that you're staying up on your supplies and things like that.
Yeah. So really, it's not something you can just put together a list in 5 minutes, say, I'll go to the supermarket, I'll go to Preparewise, I'll go to the gun store, and I'll get all this stuff together, and then I'll be set. It's really an ongoing process where you're filling stuff in, and you're putting new items on the list as well.
Absolutely. And it also depends on your comfort level. If you're not more comfortable than 2 weeks worth of stuff, or let's say, you know what, I'm going to good with 72 hours, and that's all I really want. It's going to take less time and effort to maintain that. So once you start preparing, you realize that there's a lot of comfort that takes place when you are prepared. Some people just say, I'm just going to have a little extra food, a little bit of water, and they realize that, you know what, I don't want to say they're empowered because it's not necessarily a power trip, but it is empowering from the fact that you can be comfortable knowing that you can take care of your family. I have a family member recently moved down to Arizona, and we were talking about this, and he was relating to me. He just had a baby girl, And he's like, I have never thought of preparedness, but now I am so, new parents are so concerned about protecting their children and what they can do to protect their family. And he's very much looking towards how can I be prepared? How can I withstand, certain events and stuff? And the more you get into it, the more you look at how fragile the system is and how easy it is. For example, just a trucker strike. A trucker strike can quickly create a shortage in fuel or food or medicines or anything like that. And it doesn't have to be calamity, doesn't have to be Armageddon, but the shortage of resources causes stress and problems for people, and that can be avoided simply with some preparations.
Hey, and trucker strike, Hurricane Sandy, what happened there? The grid went down, gas stations couldn't pump gas, and you had pandemonium. One of the things that I'm telling people to do is, I think the best value right now, especially for a person just getting into emergency preparedness, is PrepareWise's 183 mega sample pack. I've got a few of those. It's 183 meals for $280. I mean, that comes out to $1.50 a meal, a little bit more. It's a great deal. And, that's going to basically take care of you and another. You figure 2 meals a day, ideally 3 meals a day. That'll give you, 30-day supply each. But you go two meals a day if it's necessary, and you're taken care of for 45 days each. And really, it just makes so much sense. That's the one that I really tell people. If you've never bought any emergency preparedness supplies, never done anything, you get that one. But also, you got to have water on hand. It's real important. That's why I say, even if you like your town's water, if you just get the water supply company brings those 5-gallon jugs, and you got 10 of them, you got 50 gallons of water, which will last you. Rain collection barrels, not to get crazy, but rain collection barrels will save you money because you don't have to use the faucet to water plants in your garden if you have one in your lawn. There's so many things that you can do that really don't require a tremendous amount of effort, but that will go a long way should the need arise to sustaining you and your family.
I agree. And that's part of where when you do preparedness for a while, you realize that it doesn't have to be all these crazy sort of preps that you take. It can be a slight modification to your lifestyle. For example, putting rain barrels underneath your gutters, if your state allows that. Some states
that's illegal.
But, having some food storage, when I started in preps, we didn't really have the internet. So you had to kind of do it by catalog, and you had to find these catalogs by talking to people or go to the library and look up information. And it was a lot of mail order stuff. Now it's much easier to find information. But storing food, I think, is easier today because one of the reasons I like PrepareWise food so much. It's got a 25-year shelf life. So that means what I buy today, the investment I make in food today is good 10, 15, 20, 25 years down the road. I don't have to keep rotating that out 5, 7, even 10 years. I can make the investment and know that I've got that part of my preparedness plan covered for that extended period of time. That's one of the issues I had in the beginning was it's constantly rotating and things were going bad and that's part of what you need to do on a regular basis to make sure that your supplies are still good, make sure your gear is still serviceable, make sure your batteries for your flashlight's still light, make sure the flashlight bulb hasn't burnt out or been broken. I mean, just those little things, but you can incorporate a lot of this into your daily life. So it's not like, okay, it's, the week before Halloween, it's preparedness week at the household and you do nothing but, and you get burned out on it. I don't think that's a really good way of doing things.
No, definitely not. Hey, what do you think of the idea of having an inverter that you can hook up to your car and use that to power appliances and stuff if you have no electricity?
No, it's a great idea. It's a good idea because one, everybody or most people have a car. Two, your car can actually put out quite a bit of power if you buy a decent sized inverter and connect it to the battery. And because most cars are relatively quiet, you can run it and power your your appliances or charge your batteries or whatever you need to run the power for, and it's not going to make a lot of noise like a generator will. It is one of the good steps between having a generator and having some alt energy stuff like solar panels and stuff, because all you need to do is make a relatively small investment in a decent inverter, and you can still keep your refrigerator running, keep your freezer running, and if you combine that with, say, the ability to make ice, whether you have ice trays for your freezer or an actually dedicated ice machine, by making ice, you can extend that power by running the power, make the ice, turn it off, and then that ice will help keep everything else cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm looking at one here. Cobra makes it. 800-watt power inverter. It's $45. It'll go 1,600 watts peak, and that's enough to keep some stuff in your house going, charge up your cell phones, really do a lot of things, and you just basically plug it to the battery, and that's it.
Yeah, well, what you need to do is you need to find out what you're going to power. You need to look at how much power it takes. For example, a freezer or a refrigerator. One thing you can do, they're not too expensive. It's called a kilowatt meter. You plug it into the wall, and then you plug the appliance into this meter, and it'll tell you everything about how much wattage or how much amperage it's using. It'll tell you what its startup, like when the compressor kicks on for the freezer, you can watch to see what the spike is, and you can then gauge how much electricity you need. So 1,600 watts spike is pretty good for an inverter, but you want to make sure that you're not plugging in the 2 refrigerators, 2 deep freezes, a TV, a computer, and all this other stuff at the same time. You gotta map that out. But yeah, an inverter can be a great stepping stone to an alternative energy plan.
Yeah, I'm looking at another one. Well, this one's $3,500. Forget that. That's for like a welder, arc welding outfit. I don't think your car battery will realistically be able to put out that much juice, but there are a lot of them on the market, and they're not that much money. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. Like for our purposes, I think you spend a couple $100, you get the best one you can, putting out the most juice, and then, they've got 2,500 watt inverters, but that's going to require a diesel engine with a huge heavy duty battery. But, I'm thinking about it, Rob. It probably makes sense to keep another car battery in reserve in your house, because then you can hook up that other battery to the car and then hook up an inverter to that. So you've got an extra auto battery ready to go at any given time.
Sure. Actually, I like the Optima batteries. They're I think they're a gelled. It's not a sealed lead acid battery like our car batteries are. They are, I think it's AGMs are what they're called, but it's a different type of battery. They hold their charge. It's kind of shaped like the same car battery, but they don't off gas. So if you were to keep it in your house and buy a small 12-volt charger conditioner for it to keep it topped off, you won't have to worry about the off gassing that the batteries produce when they are charging. But yeah, a spare battery will allow you to swap batteries out or connect them and charge them and pull one battery inside and be able to power small electronic devices. You want to be able to, and using that external battery is another stepping stone. You can buy a small solar panel when your budget allows, that will allow you to charge that battery with the sun. And you can run things like, small 12-volt battery chargers that charge, your AA's, your AAA's for flashlights and radios and stuff like that. And if you have even ham radio, you can run off the battery, laptop computers, or recharge your iPhones or iPads or wherever you may have music and videos and entertainment and information. All those devices come into play, especially if you're trying to keep kids busy or look for information on medical procedures or first aid or, how to on survival stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the things I've also been exploring is the concept of a diesel car because, things get bad. Auto maintenance is going to be a very difficult thing to be able to come about. There's not going to be a a place on every single corner that can fix your car. And diesel cars need a lot less maintenance than gasoline-powered cars.
Well, I don't know so much about the newer ones. I have a diesel truck. I have a diesel F-250. I love it because it's a powerhouse, and the diesel is a very stable fuel. It's easy to store. I don't have to worry about it degrading over time or deteriorating over time. But there's lots of parts of my truck that have more in common with a jet airplane that a jet fighter airplane than it does a car, because my accelerator pedal isn't directly connected to the engine. It goes through a computer. The way the diesel works, it's a very high pressurized fuel line up in the top end of the engine for the fuel injectors and stuff. So I mean, you can get an old diesel that's a very simple diesel that would be very simple to run. It wouldn't be as fuel efficient as the new ones, but yeah, you certainly can do that. And what I like about the diesel is simply from the fact that if I store diesel and I store gasoline, that diesel fuel, even without treatment, will last far longer.
Yeah, and in theory, you can run your car off of the waste oil from McDonald's from the fryolator there. With a little bit, you have to process it. It isn't really that easy to do. You have to filter the stuff. And it's interesting, if you've ever been behind a vehicle that's running off a biodiesel, sometimes it smells like French fries. But diesel more efficient than gasoline. But yeah, there's a lot of technology in today's cars, regardless what type of engine is running them, because of all the pollution stuff and all of the efficiency stuff to make the engines run better. So aside from that, what are some other items that you keep in your preparedness arsenal, if you will?
Well, I keep my arsenal or my survival bag? Your survival bag, which will include your arsenal, I'm sure. Yeah, well, I try to look at it from a standpoint. Actually, I'm finishing a book that I hope to have out by the end of the month that covers this sort of concept. Is I don't look at so much specific items on what I need to have. I don't focus on like a butane lighter or matches. I focus on capabilities. So I look at, what do I need to provide clothing for myself? What do I need to provide communications? What do I need to provide defense? And those items change depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm taking a small bag with me or my get-home bag, it's going to be much more condensed, and I'm going to think of different items for that, but yet I'm still going to try to accomplish those goals. So that's kind of where I look at. I have a system that I call fast packs that are our basic evacuation bags. My wife and I both have a main one that we will take with us if we travel far. And then I have other bags that contain all the other stuff that I think we're going to need. And what I've done is we each have one of each, and I've tied blue yarn to hers so that if she ever has to evacuate before I do, she knows which ones to take. So we both have a set of supplies. Hers includes the kids, although now that they're getting older, I need to start creating bags just for them. You need to have things that provide the basics of, survival, shelter, fire, water, food, some sort of defense. You want to provide first aid. These are all the things that we take for granted every day. We just need to kind of look at them and say, okay, how do I continue doing this if my house is destroyed and I have to live in my backyard? How do I provide shelter for my family? How do I make the water that is right there in the puddle clean for them to drink? How do I may have food, but how do I warm the food? How do I cook the food? And those are the solutions that you need to, work out for yourself, what works best for you.
Yeah, great point. You can't prepare for every single possible emergency. It's impossible to do. And there's emergencies that could happen that you haven't even thought of yet. My theory is this, though, Rob, that just having the plan, just having thought about it, is going to put you ahead of the vast majority of people who've never given it a moment's thought, who believe that when you turn the light switch on, the electric will always work, the lights will always come on, And when you go to the supermarket, the shelves will always be chock full of inventory, and life as you know it will always continue on the way it is now. And I always think of that saying. It was kind of a missaying by Eisenhower, who said things are more like they are today than they've ever been before. And that's that normalcy bias that you just can't help as a person. It's human. You want consistency. You thrive. You crave it. And it's really one of the main things of modern life today is consistency, meaning the power will come on. You will wake up in the morning. Your alarm clock will go off. All these things you just believe are destined to happen, and you can't conceive of any possibility of it not happening.
Right. The survival mentality is important because it will allow you to react faster. For example, one of the things that I've been talking about on my podcast, and you can download them or you can get them through iTunes. Just search for Preparedness Podcast, or you can go to the website, thepreparednesspodcast.com, and listen to them directly through the website. I've been talking about EMP and the reality of EMP. EMP is a very real thing. It's not that difficult for somebody to attack us with an EMP. But even if this Earth was completely at peace, we still have that big ball of fire in the sky, and it launches these coronal mass ejections at us on a regular basis. In fact, we were hit yesterday with one of them, and we're hit actually all the time with them. That's not the issue. It's if they are large enough and powerful enough, they can basically take down the power grid and take it down in such a way that it won't be back for months or possibly years. And if this were to happen, most people are going to be sitting there waiting for the power to come on. Oh, it's going to come back on. No, it's going to come back on. Trust me, it's going to come back on. Well, if you realize what happened, if you know what to look for, then you can react faster and stay ahead of the curve, because if the power grid goes down in such a fashion from EMP or CME, you're not going to want to stay in the cities. You want to get out into a farm or someplace that you can take care of yourself, because the cities are going to quickly become, death traps, because, like, for example, here out in the Phoenix, Arizona area, without electricity, we don't have water, let alone electricity and fuel and food. But, the water pumps stop. We don't have gravity-fed water here.
Yeah. No water, no life.
And, the other thing that I like to equate preparedness to is when you're prepared, when you have a preparedness plan and you have supplies and gear, it gives you opportunities and options that you wouldn't have if you didn't make those. So if you're hit with a disaster or some sort of crisis event, and you're like, well, I don't have any fuel storage, so my car's on empty and I can't get to the gas station, I guess we have no choice but to stay here at home. Whereas if you did have a fuel storage, you could make the choice, should we stay or should we go? You have the option, the opportunity. If you have food and water and supplies and a way to protect yourself and defend your family, then you can make the choices that best suit you. If you don't have a choice but to do X, then you have to do it. You have no other choice. Oh, I have to go stand in the food line because I don't have any choice. Oh, I have to drink this dirty water that will probably make me sick because I don't have a choice. And so by being prepared, that's the biggest thing that you get out of it, is you have options. If you have a good food storage plan and you lose your job, well, you have the flexibility and you have some opportunity there to start using what you've already stored up so you're not spending more money while you're trying to look for another job. You have those options and those opportunities that most people won't, because they think that it's always going to be the same and nothing ever changes.
Yeah, that is a great point, that it doesn't free you, but it frees you up in certain respects when you've got a plan, when you've thought these things through before. And look, these bomb shelters, civil defense facilities that we had and constructed large networks of them in the 50s and 60s in the United States, had all of this stuff. They had, huge packs of aspirins and food packs, canned food, blankets, so many things, and somehow in the glory days of the 70s, that's the right term, we just forgot all about civil preparedness and emergency preparedness. And hopefully enough of you are waking up now to realize that regardless how good things are, I think somebody said, in times of war, you prepare for peace. In times of peace, you prepare for war. In times of plenty, you prepare for times of scarcity, and vice versa. And I think, Rob, that's what you've really gotten the point across, is that you really need to be doing this as an ongoing part of your life. It shouldn't be anything extraordinary. This is what you need to be doing to ensure that when disruptions occur, and they do in the normal course of events without a potential economic collapse, which could be around the corner, you're going to be ready for it. Anyway, Rob, again, we find your podcast, your website. Where do we go for that?
You can go to thepreparednesspodcast.com. My podcasts are structured mostly around the things you can do to help get prepared. I don't focus on Armageddon so much. I focus on mostly everyday emergencies. You know, like, for example, the first thing I would say to somebody who wants to be prepared is like, well, make sure you have the proper insurance, home insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, because you're more likely to be affected by job loss, car accidents, and a house fire than you are tornadoes, earthquakes, or terrorism. So you need to have the priorities in order. But you'll find all that sort of information on my website, and specifically in the podcasts.
All right. Well, we're going to put a link up to your site on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Don't forget, we've got the Liberty Mastermind Symposium taking place in Dallas on June 28th and 29th. 15 unbelievable speakers there. Go sign up at libertymastermind.us or financialsurvivalnetwork.com and click the link. And it's going to be an amazing thing with Martin Armstrong, David Morgan. So many other people are going to be there. You don't want to miss it. And Rob, as always, thanks. And we really enjoyed speaking with you and really getting more and more into this whole preparation thing, because it's really such an important thing that you need to be doing. You shouldn't be wasting any time. You should start doing it right now.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, Kerry. It was fun.
All right, we'll talk again soon.
This show is brought to you by PrepareWise.
And that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Preparedness Podcast. Until next time, enjoy life and be safe.